Picture this. It's 1859. Deep in the Australian outback, a landowner named Thomas Austin decides he wants to do a little hunting, so he releases a small, completely harmless-looking group of wild animals onto his property. He released exactly 24 rabbits. That's it. Just 24 little guys hopping out into a massive environment with practically unlimited food, wide open spaces, and absolutely zero natural predators. Well, fast forward less than 10 years, and those 24 rabbits, they exploded into an unstoppable plague numbering in the millions. We aren't talking about a slow, steady increase here. This was a literal biological explosion. So, that begs the question, how on earth do we calculate unstoppable growth like that? How do you even measure a biological explosion? Well, by the end of this explainer, you are going to completely understand the core concepts of exponential and logarithmic formulas. You'll know the math behind them, and more importantly, exactly how to apply them to reverse engineer real-world biological and physical events. Section 1. Taming the math. All right, now that we've got a feel for what explosive growth looks like, let's tame it. When we're dealing with exponential equations, our absolute best-case scenario is something called the one-to-one property. Say we have an equation where the base numbers perfectly match, like 2 to the power of x minus 1 equals 2 to the power of 2x minus 4. The math here is actually beautiful. Step 1, you just find that common base, which is 2. Step 2, because the bases match perfectly on both sides, we just apply the one-to-one property. We literally drop those big 2's and just set the exponents equal to each other. We write x minus 1 equals 2x minus 4. Then step 3, we just solve for the unknown. A little basic algebra, moving variables around, and boom, we quickly find that x equals 3. Super clean, right? But wait, hang on. This is actually a really important point. Do all exponential equations actually have a solution? Take a quick second to think about that. The answer is no. And hey, this is a super common place to get tripped up. Imagine you're looking at the equation 3 to the power of x plus 1 equals negative 2. You might immediately try to start moving numbers around, right? But stop and think about the logic for a second. A positive base, like 3, raised to literally any power, is never ever going to output a negative number. The range of an exponential function is always positive. So if you ever see a positive base set to equal a negative number, just put your pencil down, you can immediately stop and say, there is no solution. Section 2. Using logs as decovers. Obviously, real-world math isn't always as neat and tidy as simply matching up the bases. So let's use an analogy here. Think of exponential equations as the accelerator pedal. They push a value forward incredibly fast, kind of like that rabbit population exploding into the millions. But logarithmic equations? They're the brakes. They are our decoder ring. Because logs and exponents are mathematical inverses of each other, we can use logarithms to reverse engineer that explosive growth and figure out exactly how much time has actually passed. So, what exactly happens when there's no easy way to get the powers to share the same base? Like, how do we solve something tricky like 5 to the power of x plus 2 equals 4 to the power of x?
Well, this is exactly where we bring in our decoder. Step 1, we take the natural logarithm, or ln, of both sides. And this shows off an absolutely brilliant property of logarithms. It physically lets us pull those x exponents down out of the air and put them right on the main line as basic multipliers. Pretty cool, right? Then, step 2. Once they're pulled down, we expand the terms, move everything with an x over to one side, and factor out that unknown x. Finally, step 3, we just divide by the remaining coefficient to isolate x. The natural log basically acts like a mathematical grappling hook. It pulls down the unknown so we can actually work with it using normal everyday algebra.
Section 3. Dating ancient bones. Now, let's firmly connect this math to the real world. If explosive growth is an accelerator going up, well, exponential decay is the accelerator going down. Let's look at carbon-14 dating. While plants and animals are alive, the ratio of carbon-14 perfectly matches the atmosphere. But the literal second they die, the carbon-14 inside their remains starts to drop out exponentially. Now, scientists know that the quote-unquote half-life of carbon-14 is exactly 5,730 years. That means every 5,730 years, exactly half of the remaining carbon just disappears. We use this constant, highly predictable rate as a kind of mathematical clock, and it's incredibly accurate for dating organic matter up to 60,000 years old. So let's try a real-life detective problem together. Say a bone fragment is dug up at an archaeological dig, and lab tests show it has only 20% of its original carbon-14 remaining. How old is this bone? Let's see how this breaks down into a step-by-step solution. Step 1, we grab the decay formula we derived from that half-life. Time equals the natural log of the remaining ratio divided by our constant rate of decay, which is negative 0.000121. Step 2, we just plug in 0.20 for r because, remember, 20% of the carbon is remaining. Step 3, we calculate the age and, wow, the math proves that this bone fragment is approximately 13,301 years old. I mean, think about that. With just a few lines of basic algebra, we are literally reaching back to the end of the last ice age. Section 4, cooling your cheesecake. Okay, wait, this next part is super important. These formulas don't just measure millennia and ancient history. They literally measure minutes right in your own kitchen. Enter Newton's law of cooling. This law states that an object's temperature decreases exponentially, but it levels off as it gets closer to the surrounding air temperature, meaning it doesn't just crash all the way to zero. The cooling acts as a curve that slowly flattens out as it gets closer and closer to the ambient room temperature. Let's set up a highly practical problem, something you might actually do. You pull a beautifully baked cheesecake out of the oven. Its internal temperature is perfectly hot, 165 degrees Fahrenheit. You take it and put it directly into a refrigerator that's sitting at a nice, chilly 35 degrees. After just 10 minutes in the fridge, the cheesecake's temperature drops rapidly, down to 150 degrees. All right, here is your quick retention check for today. Based on that really rapid initial drop of 15 degrees in just 10 minutes, how long do we have to wait to safely eat this cheesecake at a nice, cool 70 degrees? Seriously, take a guess in your head right now. Got a number? Well, what's fascinating here is that the actual math totally defies our basic intuition. You must wait 107 minutes. That's almost 2 full hours. Why? Well, it's all because of Newton's law of cooling. The exponential decay is super fast at first, dropping those 15 degrees in 10 minutes. But as the cheesecake's temperature gets closer and closer to that 35-degree fridge environment, the rate of cooling slows down dramatically. The curve completely flattens. It takes a surprisingly long time to shed those final few degrees down to our target of 70. Section 5, the limits of growth. Before we wrap things up today, let's bring it all together by looking at the physical limits of these formulas. Because, as you probably noticed with the cheesecake, pure exponential growth or decay just can't happen unchecked forever in the real world. So a crucial concept to grasp is the logistic growth model. Imagine a single person in a totally isolated town of exactly 1,000 people gets the flu. Now that infection might spread exponentially at first, 1 person, then 2, then 4, 8, 16, but it absolutely cannot grow to 1,000,000, right? There are only 1,000 people in the whole town. The logistic growth model accounts for this exact reality. It shows that rapid initial growth reaches a peak growth rate and then actually decreases as it approaches a strict physical upper bound. And that concept brings us right to something called carrying capacity. The carrying capacity is simply the limiting value or the absolute maximum population size an environment can physically sustain. In our flu example, the carrying capacity is exactly 1,000. The math models reality perfectly here by forcing the very top of that curve to flatten out horizontally once the entire population is infected. This prevents the mathematical equation from just nonsensically growing into infinity. So if mathematical models can accurately predict biological plagues of rabbits, reverse engineer the end of the ice age from a single tiny bone fragment, and perfectly calculate the cooling time of your dessert, what invisible forces are you going to uncover next? The fact is, exponential equations are driving the world all around us, and logarithms, well, they give us the ultimate power to decode them. I highly encourage you to keep exploring these formulas.